Story 1. Rob Kenny, creator of the Dad, How Do I? YouTube channel, is an incredible role model. After losing his father at 12, he now provides practical advice to kids and young men who need dad advice, teaching essential life skills like fixing a toilet or tying a tie. Story 2. Captain Picard was a great role model for me growing up. He consistently put his personal feelings aside to fulfill his duty, unless it conflicted with his ethics. He also acted like a father figure to the crew, guiding them with wisdom and integrity. Story 3. This is a very weird comment section because somebody posted the same question about 2 months ago, and the top comment and its 2 replies are basically the same thing. A lot of the comments look similar as well. Kind of freaky. Story 4. Terry Crews also deserves a mention for sure. He is constantly striving to be the best version of himself. A loving father, unafraid to show his emotions, and someone who owns up to his mistakes and works to grow from them. He seems like the kind of person anyone, not just men, could look up to. Of course, I do not know him personally, but he sure sets a great example. Story 5. The most important thing is a real person being a role model to young men. Us men have to show up for the young men around us to teach them that there is a better way than anything some celebrity or influencer is going to try to sell them. Only grown men can get our young men out of the situation we have allowed to happen. Story 6. Lorenzo from A Bronx Tale, played by Robert De Niro, guides his son away from doomed paths, teaching him what it means to be a real man, a tough man. We need more fathers like this. Story 7. Eminem came from a single, broken, poverty-stricken home and overcame it with hard work and determination. He struggled with addiction and overcame it. He is an amazing father who prioritizes his kids over money. He declined a $100 million tour so he could be there to watch his kids grow and refused to attend the Oscars, where he won Best Original Song so he could watch cartoons with his daughter. He adopted his ex-wife's niece and her child from another marriage and took guardianship of his half-brother to give them the best life possible, helping them financially and supporting them their entire lives. He has an amazing work ethic that I think a lot of people can take a note from. Story 8. Henry Cavill teaches many important lessons, like personal computers are superior to consoles. Finishing your World of Warcraft raid is more important than being Superman, and respect for the source material is more important than a paycheck. Story 9. Jimmy Carter for sure. Absolutely dedicated his life to helping others. Harry Belafonte, who revolutionized American music, marched with Martin Luther King Jr. and paid for Martin Luther King Jr.'s children's educations. Story 10. Jason Brown was an NFL player. He stepped away from football and started a farm. He gives the first and best of his crops away to food banks to help feed people in need. Read about him there. Story 11. Fred Rogers, also known as Mr. Rogers, showed that kindness, emotional intelligence, and empathy are powerful traits for men. He taught generations of kids and adults the value of being gentle, authentic, and caring without ever needing to be loud or aggressive. Plus, he tackled tough topics in a way that inspired understanding and growth. Story 12. Look at the very popular men. It's guys like Tom Holland, the Golden Retriever, or the actor who played Fiyero in Wicked. They're open, approachable, kind, maybe a bit androgynous, and don't take masculinity too seriously. They're all secure in their manhood, treat people, including women, well, and are funny and kind. That's what we want. Story 13. Aragorn. He has all the classic masculine traits. He is a fighter physically and mentally, determined, brave, strong, honorable, a leader with strong will, and more. And he is kind, compassionate, understanding, and wise. He allows himself to express emotion and to show respect and admiration to those who deserve it. He is undemanding of basic conditions of life. He can literally sleep on the ground in mud if needed. He freely cried for Boromir and knelt before the hobbits right at his own coronation as a king and a victorious warlord. Story 14. Dick Proenique. Built a log cabin by hand at age 50 in Alaska. Loved and respected nature. Lived his life his way without hurting others. Lived in the wilderness, mostly alone, for 30 years and kept meticulous journals that were used by the National Park Service. Story 15. Someone pointed out that men do not look up to women. If you were to look at a teenage boy's room, they may have a poster of an athlete, a band, a vehicle, or an attractive woman they fantasize about, but men do not look up to women. They look up to other men. Story 16. John Cena made his name as a professional wrestler but has transitioned very well to an actor. He is incredibly giving of his time and recognizes that he is looked up to by kids. He is also supportive of the diversity of the United States and even did a video redefining patriotism and talking about the importance of America's diversity. Story 17. Christopher Nolan is an insanely successful filmmaker while collaborating with his wife, raising children, and having zero drama in the process. He is a very private man with regard to his personal life. All in all, he is a true professional, as told by those who work with him. Also, Denis Villeneuve is another example of a classy modern director who shows you can be top grade in your field while treating those you work with great respect. Story 18. For nerdy men, Brennan Lee Mulligan shows that you can be funny and respectful to everyone, and sets a higher standard for Dungeons & Dragons game masters. He supported the Writers' Union, dislikes big multinational corporations, and is, by many accounts, just a decent person in general. There is no better human. Story 19. Probably gonna get downvoted, but Joe Rogan. I am a 50-year-old woman with a great father. He has a great positive attitude and a great work ethic. He promotes female comedians, and if you read his comments, a lot of his fans hate when he has them on. He constantly has strong women on his podcast. He shows respect to his wife and daughters. He has shown he is a loyal and honest man. You might not agree with him on everything he says, but you can tell he is a principled individual. Story 20. Jordan Peterson, before the fame, when he was teaching at the University of Toronto. He is a clinical psychologist who spent his whole adult life working with men who came from families with histories of generational alcoholism. The man knows how to talk to a man who is on a losing streak or a path to nowhere and wants to find a better way but doesn't know how. Story 21. Since most people who are going to see this question will likely think in terms of individualism, it's up to you who you want to look up to. People have a diverse set of beliefs that will change how they view others and the world around them. An example would be that someone who is racist will most likely not look up to a role model that goes against their racial biases. However, I understand why some people don't want individualism involved with males to begin with, as it can destabilize and tear a nation apart. In terms of what I think is realistic, the role model should be a believer in some form of collectivism. Story 22. Ray Mears has an open mind for learning new things about cultures and places he is visiting and is a survival expert without the bravado some of them have a bad case of. He gets along and thrives because of learning and adapting, not trying to force his ways on environments and cultures where they would not work. Story 23. Steve Rogers, especially in Captain America, the first Avenger, even before he was a supered-up beefcake, he was true to himself and his beliefs. Also, as some others have said, Aragorn and Uncle Iroh are incredible examples of bravery, determination, selflessness, kindness, and compassion. Story 24. Batman. Yes, he is rich, but ignoring that, he is an amazing detective, very disciplined, sympathetic, and a great man in general, especially in the television series. Story 25. Frank Gilfeather is wonderful. 79-year-old boxer, trains every day. Big on Instagram. The message he keeps promoting is never give up on yourself. It sounds very basic as we are all so used to hearing never give up. But by adding on yourself, it just makes it somehow more resonant. Story 26. Mark Noble. Premier League footballer, but always stayed grounded. Looked after the up-and-coming youngsters, always swept the dressing room after matches, stayed with his club and his high school sweetheart, thought about others, for example, Ireland decision ahead of himself. Story 27. Rob Kenny, the guy behind the Dad. How Do I? YouTube channel, lost his own father at age 12 and now gives practical advice to kids and young men who need dad advice, teaching them the basic skills they need, like fixing a toilet or how to tie their ties. Story 28. Samwise Gamgee for me. An amazing friend. Literally carried his friend on his back and also carried the ring without hesitation when he thought Frodo was dead. Also wins points for me because he's one of the few everyman characters in the story, not from a rich or privileged background, and worked his way to being a literal mayor after the story ended. Story 29. I would probably say that would either be Dora the Explorer or SpongeBob SquarePants, depending on how young they are. Do be careful that they do not take Patrick Star or Mr. Krabs as a role model instead, though. Story 30. Carl Winslow. As a rural-based, white, elder millennial growing up, Carl Winslow, the head of the household and a black Chicago beat cop in the 90s, was my role model. The man supported a massive family and even brought in more people, probably saw some terrible things as a Chicago frontline policeman, and had the most annoying neighbor, Urkel, in the entire city, yet treated him like his own. Not only was he my vision of what an exemplary member of society should be, having little exposure to the black community, he was a quasi-ambassador for rural white kids like myself. Story 31. Realistically, it should be someone close to the family or friends. Celebrity-wise, people like Keanu Reeves, Henry Cavill, and Mr. Rogers are good. Fictional role models like Aragorn, Captain Picard, and Uncle Iroh. Story 32. A brother who has grown up among sisters and their mother will most likely treat a girl like his sister and support and protect her, even if he doesn't know her, because he knows the girl is someone's sister, mother, or sibling. Story 33. Terry Crews, hands down. He's open about mental health, therapy, and his past struggles while staying positive and strong. Plus, he's not afraid to be goofy and show that real men don't need to take themselves too seriously all the time. Story 34. The best role model for young men depends on the values and qualities they admire and wish to emulate. Someone who demonstrates integrity, resilience, empathy, and a strong sense of responsibility can be a great role model. This could be a family member, a teacher, a historical figure like Nelson Mandela, or a modern leader like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who promotes hard work and positivity. Ultimately, it's about finding someone whose actions and character inspire growth and positive impact. Story 35. This is a great post, and there are lots of good examples, but I think we limit ourselves by thinking that having a single role model is the best thing for kids. People fall short in all sorts of ways. Some people rise to incredible heights through hard work and talent, but have trouble regulating their emotions. Some people are saints from a moral perspective, but never achieve everything they could in life. Modeling yourself after a single person is setting yourself up to inherit their flaws, and you'll only ever get one perspective doing it that way. I think the healthiest thing for young men is to see a variety of different aspirational adult men, who are all achieving in different ways, so they can learn that they can work towards being the best parts of each of their role models. That's not even necessarily possible, but they'll also be looking at imperfect men, so they'll understand that it's not a failure to be less than perfect in every way. A good mix of sportsmen, academics, educators, family members, and community leaders can show kids what's possible for them to achieve in life. I think it's also very helpful for them to see those role models doing some of the hard work that gets them where they are, not merely their moments of triumph. Anyway, to answer your question, Aragorn. Story 36. The one who isn't out there screaming, "Hey, look at me." I'd say Terry Crews if we are discussing celebrities. He's a model of discipline and motivation. He's an all-around great guy with great energy, yeah. Story 37. I think Chris Bumstead could be a solid contender for a lot of young men, especially if they listen to him talk or his interviews instead of just viewing his bodybuilding achievements. Story 38. The Doctor. Some people live more in 20 years than others do in 80. It's not the time that matters, it's the person. The way I see it, every life is a pile of good things and bad things. The good things don't always soften the bad things, but vice versa. The bad things don't always spoil the good things or make them unimportant. Courage isn't just a matter of not being frightened, you know? It's being afraid and doing what you have to do anyway. In 900 years of time and space, I've never met anyone who wasn't important. There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes. Just to name a few of their pearls of wisdom. Story 39. A few athletes come to mind. Brian Shaw, world's strongest man, world's kindest man. Seriously, watch him on YouTube sometime. It's freaking adorable. Ross Edgley swam around Great Britain with a smile and indomitable grit. The Three Musketeers Niall Wilson, Ash Watson, and Luke Stoney. Male gymnasts well past their competitive years, but still goofing around in the gym doing fun tricks and being best friends. Honorable mention to Martin Ford, bodybuilder, actor, looks like a scary tattooed monster right up until he smiles. There was a picture of him on the ground on his hands and knees with a rainbow unicorn headband giving his toddler daughter horsey rides that was just melt. Story 40. Someone they know in person. Do not insult someone's intelligence by trying to set up some distant minor celebrity figure as a masculinity model and expect it to be effective because most young men will recognize it as nonsense. Story 41. Those who are around can relate and understand the child and teach the child useful strategies and coping skills while creating paths to a successful adulthood. Story 42. If your role model is a famous person, you've got the wrong role model. Famous people have a public persona. You've never seen their true self. You have no idea what they are like. And that public persona might be unsustainable in the real world if you try to emulate it. Also, they can't be a mentor. They can't help you on your path. So a role model should be somebody in your life, somebody you see positive traits in that you want to emulate.